Hey there, and welcome to the Deep Dive. We're jumping into something, well, pretty fundamental today. Communication. I mean, we all talk every single day, obviously, but the material we're looking at, it makes this really sharp point. Talking isn't quite the same as actually communicating. Communication really is about connection. Yeah, being understood, that's part of it for sure. But it's also about, maybe even more importantly, really getting where the other person is coming from. So we've got some great sources here, really packed on powerful ways to, level up those skills. And it's not just theory, it's very practical stuff. Tips, real-world examples, good advice on bridging that gap between just making noise and actually connecting. Our mission here is simple. Unpack these insights, pull out the key stuff, and help you communicate more effectively.
Definitely. And what's really striking, and the sources highlight this, is how communication touches, everything. Your job, your relationships, even just those quick chats you have. These insights offer, real ways to improve something we do all the time, but maybe don't always think about improving.
Okay, let's dig in. The material starts right at the beginning, the foundation. And it hits us with something that, feels a bit backwards at first. It's basically, listen more than you speak.
Right. We're often so focused on what we want to say.
Exactly. But the real power, it seems, is in actually hearing people out. Think about someone you love talking to. The material points out, chances are, they make you feel genuinely heard, They're not interrupting, not rushing you along. They just listen. And this links straight into what the source calls active listening, which is more than just waiting your turn.
Yeah, it's not passive hearing.
Right. It's full attention. Not planning your comeback while they're still talking, letting them actually finish. There's this great little example phrase. That makes sense. Tell me more about that.
Simple, right?
So simple. But apparently, using something like that and meaning it can totally shift the feel of a conversation. Shows you're actually engaging, not just hearing noises.
And that active listening piece, the material, really hammers this home. It's foundational because it builds trust. It's about moving beyond just the words to trying to grasp their perspective. And the sources give practical tips, like using little cues,
Yeah.
right? Shows you're following along.
Okay.
Or paraphrasing, So what I think you're saying is, just to check you've got it right.
Yeah, that confirmation.
Exactly. And asking good follow-up questions, like if someone says, work's been stressful, instead of just, oh no, maybe ask, what's been the most stressful part lately? It shows you're actually thinking about what they said.
Right, digging a bit deeper, so listening first. Then the flip side, which is just as crucial. Think before you speak.
Ah, yes, the foot and mouth prevention technique.
Totally. We've all been there, haven't we? Said something too fast.
Yeah.
A joke that bombs. Or a snippy comment when you're annoyed.
And instantly wish you could just reel it back in.
Exactly. And the insight here is the power of the pause. Just stopping for a second. The sources say even 3 seconds can be enough. Enough time to process. Think about the impact. Maybe avoid saying something you'll regret. Good communicators, the material says, they don't just blurt things out. They choose words carefully. There's this neat little filter. Is it clear? Is it kind? Is it necessary?
I like that. Clear, kind, necessary. And that's where listening and thinking really link up, isn't it? If you've actively listened, you actually know what might be clear, kind, and necessary for that person in that moment.
Right. It informs your pause.
Exactly. You're not just pausing in a vacuum, you're pausing based on what you just heard. It creates this positive cycle.
Yeah.
Better listening leads to better speaking, which usually encourages them to listen better too.
Okay, foundation covered. Listen, then think. Now, let's talk about the delivery, how the message actually comes across. The sources make this huge point. It's not just the words, not by a long shot. Apparently, something like over 70% of communication is nonverbal.
70%.
Yeah.
It's staggering when you think about it.
It really is. It means your body is talking all the time, whether you mean it to or not.
Constantly sending signals.
Yeah, so the sources give some solid tips. Stand or sit straight, try not to fidget too much, make good eye contact, but normal eye contact, not staring.
Not the creepy stare, no.
Oh, right. Offer a genuine smile, keep your hands open, not crossed up like you're defensive.
It's about alignment, really. When your body language matches what you're saying, you just seem more authentic, more confident.
Makes sense. And then there's the actual words vocabulary. The sources talk about expanding your vocab, which helps you be more precise. But here's the kicker. The goal isn't to sound smart or like use big words just 'cause. The real goal is clarity.
Being understood.
Exactly. There's this perfect example. Instead of saying, this proposition presents an intriguing juxtaposition.
Which sounds impressive, maybe.
Maybe, but does anyone know what you mean? The advice is to say something simple, like, this idea is interesting because it shows two different sides.
Much clearer.
Way clearer. The message is, simple is strong. Aim for clarity everyone gets, not just the people who own a thesaurus.
And that really comes back to knowing your audience, doesn't it? A bigger vocabulary gives you choices, sure. But good communication, like this material shows, is about picking the right words for the listener.
Right.
Using language that connects, not just language that sounds fancy. Precision for clarity's sake.
Okay, moving into what feels like the real core of connection. Empathy. The material calls it a crucial ingredient, almost like a secret sauce. It's described as like trying to step into someone else's shoes, trying to imagine what they might be feeling, looking behind the words.
Getting to the why behind what they're saying.
There's this really good example. Coworker snaps at you, your first instinct might be to snap back, right?
Defensiveness, yeah.
But the empathetic response, the source suggests, might be pausing and saying something like, hey, you seem really frustrated, is everything okay?
It changes the whole dynamic.
Totally. It can diffuse the tension, shows you're trying to understand instead of just reacting.
And it reinforces that idea from the source. A conversation isn't a competition, it's supposed to be a connection. Empathy is basically the bridge to that connection. It turns conflict into potential understanding.
Building right on that connection theme, the material talks about storytelling, its power.
Oh, huge. Humans are wired for stories.
Exactly. They grab our attention, make things stick in our heads way better than just like dry facts.
Facts tell, stories sell. Or connect, in this case.
Yeah. Like instead of just saying listening is important, you tell a quick story. The source gives an example like, man, I learned about listening the hard way when I ignored my friend's advice and totally messed up that project.
Makes it relatable, memorable.
That's it. Stories create that emotional link. They make the message resonate. Okay, so we've got listening, thinking, delivery, body language, and clear words and connection through empathy and stories. But how do you actually, get better?
Practice, practice, practice. How?
Right. The sources have some practical methods. One is maybe a bit cringe-inducing, recording yourself speaking.
Oh, yeah. Nobody likes the sound of their own recorded voice, do they?
It's so awkward, but the material explains why it's useful. You hear things you normally miss. Your tone, your energy, how fast you talk.
Filler words.
Oh, the filler words. The ums, the ahs, the likes, the you-knows. Hearing them is the first step to cutting them down. It's about self-awareness, basically. You can't fix what you don't notice.
True. Makes you sound more polished once you start working on it.
Another practice idea involves reading. Just reading more in general is great, builds vocabulary, sentence, sense, rhythm, but specifically reading aloud.
Ah, okay. Why aloud?
It helps with pronunciation, fluency, just getting comfortable hearing your own voice projecting clearly. And the sources even suggest recording that too.
Double whammy. Read aloud and record it.
Yeah, to catch both the good stuff and the areas that need work.
These methods really move communication from being just this automatic thing we do to something you can consciously observe and tweak. Like tuning an instrument, you get the data you need to make intentional changes.
But self-assessment only goes so far, right? The material really stresses getting an outside view, asking for honest feedback.
Which can be tough to hear sometimes.
Totally. But the source calls it gold because we just don't see our own quirks. We're blind to our communication habits sometimes.
So true.
So it suggests asking someone you trust specific things. Hey, how do I generally come across? Am I clear? Do I talk too fast?
Specific questions help get specific answers.
Right. And the key is being genuinely open to it, even the hard stuff, because that's where the real growth happens.
Definitely. You got to be willing to hear it.
Okay, let's shift to handling stuff within the conversation itself, like silence.
Ooh, the awkward pause.
Everyone feels that pressure to fill it, right? But the sources say, hang on, maybe don't.
Silence can be powerful.
Yeah. It can give your words weight, let them land, give the other person time to think.
Or just give you time to breathe and gather your thoughts.
Exactly. Use pauses strategically to emphasize something, to take a breath. It actually makes you seem more confident, apparently, not less, not fearing the silence.
Interesting. Takes practice, I bet.
For sure. And related to silence is tone. So subtle, but so important. The material makes this point. The words are just the surface. The tone carries the real emotion, the underlying meaning.
How you say it is often more important than what you say.
Precisely. The classic example they give is saying, "I'm fine."
Oh, yes. The loaded, "I'm fine."
Right. Said calmly, it means one thing. Said sharply, coldly, means the complete opposite.
We've all heard that fine.
So the advice is just be mindful. Pay attention to how you sound, especially when things are sensitive. A warm tone, a curious tone, a sincere one. That goes a long, long way.
It's interesting how controlling tone and getting comfortable with silence both kind of signal maturity, don't they? They add depth and effectiveness beyond just the words.
Yeah, it feels more considered. Okay, wrapping up the how-to part,
Yeah.
the material brings it all back to practice. Consistent practice.
No surprise there. Skills need practice.
Right. One idea is structured practice, like joining a speaking group. Toastmasters gets a mention. Good place to speak, get feedback, get over stage fright maybe.
Safe space to experiment.
Yeah, but if that feels like too much, they suggest smaller steps too, like a WhatsApp group where you practice writing clearly, a book club, even just meeting friends regularly to discuss something specific.
Anything that gets you consciously communicating more.
The core idea is just the more you do it, the easier and more natural it becomes. And that leads to the big takeaway, really. Communication isn't some magic talent you either have or you don't.
It's a skill.
Exactly, like learning guitar or, I don't know, playing tennis. You get better by doing it a lot.
Makes sense.
So the sources encourage finding tiny practice moments every day. Compliment a barista genuinely. Ask a colleague a question that goes beyond, how was your weekend?
Yeah.
Speak up for a minute in that meeting you usually just sit through.
Little opportunities everywhere.
Yeah, every single interaction is a chance to practice something. Listening a bit more carefully, pausing for a second, checking your tone. Those small steps, done consistently, add up to big changes.
And that really ties all 15 or so points together, doesn't it? It's not about finding one magic trick. It's the ongoing effort, applying these ideas consistently that builds mastery over time, just like the sources lay out. It's a journey.
So yeah, that's the essence of this deep dive. Communication. Definitely a skill, not just an ability. And the good news from the sources, you don't have to tackle everything at once. Just picking one or two of these ideas, like maybe focusing on active listening this week or trying that 3-second pause and really applying them, can make a noticeable difference pretty quickly. The payoff, according to the material, is pretty compelling too. Better conversations, obviously, stronger relationships, more confidence, even more influence maybe.
And it's worth remembering that perspective the sources offer. Nobody starts out amazing at this. Think of anyone you admire for how they communicate. They were a beginner once too. The difference, the material really emphasizes this, is the practice, the intentional effort over time.
Which kind of leaves us with a final thought pulled straight from the material we've been exploring. If communication is a skill, and every interaction is practice, what's just one small interaction you'll have today where you could consciously try out just one of these ideas? Maybe it's listening just a fraction more deeply to someone. Or maybe it's hitting that mental pause button for just 3 seconds before you reply. Or just noticing your tone when you answer the phone. What might change, even in that one small moment, if you make that one conscious choice? Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We really hope these insights give you some practical things to think about and maybe even try out to improve how you connect with people, starting, well, maybe right now.